friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenboss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in. Today we will be talking about an herb that I love very dearly, and I'm so excited to spotlight it for you in the Herb of the Month series. So before I dive into that information, first, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. That really helps me, helps people to find me, helps me share the work about plants. And also, if you like this video, please click the like button and let me know that you liked it, and leave comments. As always, I love to hear from you. So the plant that we're going to be talking about today is Monarda fistulosa. And I just love this image I found of this plant. It's such a beautiful herb. It's in the mint family. It has this square stem. It has opposite leaves that grow and that turn as they grow up this square stem. And it has these very classic mint family shaped flowers that are like little tubes. And they have these 5 fused petals and these like little stamen that stick out. They look to me like kind of like Fraggles. Like there's something very mythic, mystic, otherworldly about this plant. And I'm really excited to share it with you more about it because it is actually, I think, probably one of the most versatile plants that we have that grows here native in North America. And I was recently teaching a class at the Midwest Women's Herb Conference in Wisconsin. And I taught a whole class. It was like an hour and a half just on this plant. And we went around and had everyone sample some of the tincture that I made and sit with the plant. And it was amazing. I'm going to share with you as I go some of what the feedback was that experiences people had when they took Monarda into their body. And I really feel like, if I were to get on a pedestal right now or a soapbox, not on a pedestal, no thank you. If I were to get on a soapbox about any one herb right now in my life, it's going to be Monarda. This is like the plant I think everyone needs to know about, everyone should grow, and that everyone could use in some way for themselves or for clients. So let me tell you a little bit about this herb. So Monarda fistulosa, I mentioned it's in the mint family. I shouldn't cover my mouth. It's in the mint family, and it is native to the Midwest. It also can grow on the East Coast, but it's pretty, it's indigenous and found throughout North America. It likes a more temperate climate, and it's been used by the native people of North America for thousands of years. And so a lot of what I learned about this plant comes from one of my great herb teachers, Matthew Wood, and from one of his teachers, Tismal Crow, who was of the Muskogee people. And it's interesting because, his native family is Muskogee, which is more like Appalachian, like North Carolina. However, he spent a lot of time living up in the Midwest in Wisconsin and Minnesota. So he also learned a lot of, it's like no matter where the herb person lives, they end up learning about herbs because you end up finding other plant people. So, he ended up meeting plant people in the Midwest and learning about the herbs that they use and how they use them. And so that was one of the ways he learned a lot about the traditional uses of Bee Balm, taught that to Matthew Wood, and then Matthew Wood taught that to me. And yeah, in terms of like versatility, I feel like this plant can be used fresh in incredible ways. It can be used dried. It can be used topically. It can be used in a tincture form. I mean, really, as a poultice, there are really like no ways this plant cannot be used. And really when we're talking about the usable parts, what's really great is it's all the aerial parts. So it's all the above ground parts, the leaves, the stem, and the flowers all have slightly different properties, but similar enough to where you can use them interchangeably. So like right now, we have Bee Balm growing. We have 4 different patches that we have going right now. And none of them have flowered yet. They usually don't flower till like, July sometime. But I've already used the leaves this year. So let's talk about some of the first aid, or like ways, some of the reasons why you might want to grow this herb in your own yard to have it for practical first aid use. So one reason is because the leaves are really jam packed with volatile oils. And so because they have so many volatile oils, they are antiseptic, antibiotic, antifungal. I mean, gosh, you name it. This herb is anti-inflammatory. So here are some of the ways that I use the fresh leaves. So just the other day, for example, we here in Minnesota, we joke that our state bird is the mosquito because we have 10,000 lakes. So there's tons of mosquitoes. And this year was particularly bad. So my daughters and I were out in the garden. We got some mosquito bites. And in the morning, they usually itch worse at night. And then in the morning, my daughter was like, "It's itching, Mom. I don't know what to do." So I said, "Go out and get some bee balm leaves, bring it in." So she grabbed some bee balm leaves, and then I had her chew it up into a little spit poultice. And then she stuck that onto the bug bite. We put a band-aid over it, and then off she went to school. And, within a few minutes, I said, "Gigi, how's your bug bite?" She goes, "It's not itching anymore. It feels fine." I was like, "Great." So she had like 3 band-aids on her with the chewed up bee balm, about 1 leaf per area, and her bites didn't itch. And then by the time she got home, the band-aids were gone. Who knows where they ended up? But and the bites, you couldn't even see them. So it's wound healing, so it's a vulnerary, so it heals wounds, it stops itching, and it's antiseptic, so it would kill off any pathogens that might have gotten around there and might be irritating the skin. So that's like one simple, like everyone should have it, along with plantain, which is another wonderful first aid leaf. But this one, that's just one of the uses topically. Another way that I use this is for burns. And so I was in my kitchen. I forget what I was doing, but I think I grabbed a pot that was on the stove and the handle was hot, and I burned myself pretty bad. And I just grabbed my bee balm tincture, because this was in the winter, and I put the tincture right on that. Like really, it was like you could see it kind of turning white, when it burns really bad. Well, I put that tincture on, and in 10 minutes, the burn was gone. It wasn't even hot anymore. And by the next day, it was completely healed. And I think normally it would have been red and tender for a few days and maybe even blistered. So that's pretty amazing. And Tismal Crow tells a story. I have some of his recorded classes that he taught. And in one of them, he tells a story of a neighbor of his who called him up frantically saying, Bessie or someone, whoever was there, she spilled boiling water all over her. Maybe it was even oil. And she was just screaming in pain. And he goes, "Okay, I'll be right over." So he ran through the field because they lived, near each other. And on the way, he grabbed a bunch of bee balm. And by the time he got there, he told, the woman who had gotten the burns, "Okay, chew this up." And he started applying the fresh spit poultices all, in the worst parts of the burn. Then they brewed up a tea with the leaves. And then they cooled the tea down, and then they applied that with a soft cloth, like a cotton cloth, over all of the other parts of the burns. And they did that. They reapplied it like maybe every 15, 20 minutes. The pain went away, because one of the nice things about the some of the volatile oils, like the oregano, there's like a menthol, and then I'm forgetting the name of the volatile oil that's found in, I think, oregano, that's what it's called, it's analgesic. So it actually will help stop pain. So it was easing the pain. And another great quality of bee balm is that it disperses heat. So for burns, when you put it directly on there, it's actually drawing the heat out of the skin and dispersing it. And then the herbs get hot. And then you throw those away or compost them or give them back to the earth, and then you reapply. So they did that for like hours, and they just reapplied more cool tea compresses, more spit poultices. And then, you know what, by the end of the night, her skin was looking amazing. And, this is something that might have had in the past, had she not had this treatment on hand, she might have had to go to the hospital for 3rd-degree burns, covering a large part of her body. And he said by the end of the night, she was comfortable. She was still, was still sore, but that she didn't have to go to the hospital. So that's amazing. That's another wonderful use and a really good reason why you should grow bee balm in your yard. Another reason to grow bee balm for your skin or for topical use is for fungal infections. And this is a really interesting thing. I don't know if any of you have ever grown bee balm or if you've seen it growing in the wild. Sometimes on the leaves, you'll see that there's like a little bit of what looks like a powdery mildew. And it's really interesting because I did some research on this because Tismal Crow in his book, Traditional Medicine of the Muskogee People, he says it's a doctrine of signatures. And the doctrine of signatures is this idea that the plants will show you in their color, texture, and things that happen and grow on them what their medicinal uses are. And so he was saying, well, the mildew is a signature or a sign that it's used to treat fungal infections. Well, we do know that those oils are antifungal. So that checks out. But is that fungus really okay? And so I did some research, and I think it was what was it? It was like the University of, I forget which university it was, but I think it was like a Midwest, maybe it was, I think it was the University of South Dakota, had on their website some research that they had done. And they had actually found that that white powdery mildew is not bad for the plant. There's actually a mutualistic relationship that the plant provides a place for the mildew to grow, but it doesn't actually hurt the plant. So it's not parasitic. And the nice thing that they showed in this study was that that powdery mildew won't spread to other plants. It's not like, you definitely don't want to get powdery mildew on your zucchini or, other plants in your garden. But apparently it's a very specific type of fungus that grows only on Monarda. And if the plant gets weakened, like let's say the plant, there's drought conditions or the plant there's been like a bug attack or something, and the plant can't, keep its system strong, then the fungus might have a negative effect on the plant, and then the plant won't look good. And I know when I'm out harvesting, we all know what vitality looks like, and we all know what sickness looks like. So when I see a sick plant, I just leave it be. It's already busy. It's already doing its work, as Lisa Ganora, another herbalist, says. She's like, leave him alone. He's busy. So I just leave those ones alone. Hopefully they'll get some strength back, and I'll harvest the ones that look healthy and strong, and I'll again only take what I need. But it's pretty amazing to know that this fungal infection or fungus that's growing on the leaves is not harmful. It's not harmful to us if we take it in. It's not harmful to the plant. And again, both of them are just cooperatively living together, coexisting, peaceful coexistence. However, because it can grow and thrive with this fungus on it, it is a signature to us humans that, hey, I've got fungus. I want to grow and thrive. I'm not thriving. My foot is not happy with athlete's foot or, whatever fungal infections we pick up at the pool or at the gym over the summer, right? So we can actually use the leaves to make a tea and do a foot soak. We could do a spit poultice and chew up the leaves and apply them to the fungally infected area. We can use it on nail fungus, foot fungus, toenail fungus. And I've used it in my clinical practice for candida, which is kind of like it's a internal fungal infection. But for using it with candida, you really do want to make sure that you're also changing diet and taking out sugar and refined sugar and starches. And there's other pieces that need to be put in place with internal candida. But I would definitely recommend using Monarda fistulosa for anything that is fungal in nature. Okay. Another thing is the flowers are a great medicine too. They're also full of the same oils and flavors that we find in the leaves and in the stem. The flowers are a little bit softer. They're not quite as aromatic. They're still a wonderful medicine. And they were used, so Tismal taught Matthew about the signature of this flower head looking like a bundle of nerves that are frayed nerves. And so this is a specific indicator for people who have frayed nerves, who are stressed out, who maybe been working or like chronically exhausted, chronically not getting good sleep. And so it's a nerve remedy. It's known and this is one of its major traditional and modern uses, is as a nervine relaxant. So think about like chamomile and skullcap and passion flower, right? We can add in bee balm as a nervine relaxant. But what this herb does that's a little different from those is it actually helps with nerve repair. And so here are some really interesting stories. So when I was at the Midwest Women's Herbal Conference, and I told you I had everyone take some drops of the Bee Balm tincture I made, and I want to just tell you how I made the tincture real fast because I think it's important. I used the fresh whole plant, all the parts, chopped it up fine, and I actually extracted it in tequila, and like a good tequila because it does matter. To me, the flavor of like a good tequila, it's a medicine too. It's from an agave plant. So I tinctured the bee balm in the tequila because I felt like their energetics matched really well. And so did the flavors. You know, tequila is very spicy and warming and kind of has this like honey agave flavor to it. And bee balm, also one of its traditional names is sweet leaf. And that's one of the names that Tismal Crow would call it, is sweet leaf, because it's a little sweet too. So that the flavor profile of this herb and tequila, I just was like, this sounds like it could be good. And let me tell you, it was delicious. There was something that really they balanced each other so well. So when I brought it to the conference, I think I had about 30 students in that talk, and I had each one take maybe 3 to 4 drops. And then we just sat silently. And I just said, just notice, like notice where do you feel the medicine go in your body? What is the direction of movement? Is it up? Is it down? Does it go inward? Does it diffuse outward? Are there any shapes, colors, any memories that show up? Like, are there any organ systems you feel that are being affected more than others? And yeah, so here are some of the words that these women came up with. It was, one said, she said, it feels like my heart is just opening up. Like I feel this like opening in my heart. And I was like, well, yeah, it's actually a circulatory stimulant. And it's known for being diffusive. It diffuses tension. Another one was like, yeah, I can feel tension in the back of my skull just diffusing out. And another woman said, oh, I carry tension here and I could just feel it release. So yes, it helps to disperse and diffuse tension and tightness. And then this was really interesting. It wasn't until after class, because at the end of the class, I had everyone take a few drops again after we had talked about it and learned all about it. And I just said, let's take a few more drops and just sit with it and just see. So then after class, this one woman came up to me. She goes, I didn't say anything in the first round when you asked us what we noticed, but I have nerve damage in my fingers and in my hands and feet. And when I took the first few drops, it went instantly to my hands and feet. And I had sensation in my fingers and toes that I haven't had in years. She's like, but I just thought, you know what, like that's a fluke. Maybe I'm just imagining it. She's like, but then when you had me do it again at the end, it went back to those same places, but even like stronger. Like I felt it go directly there. And now, even a little bit, few minutes later, my hands and feet, I have more feeling than I've had in years. I was like, okay, cool. So this herb is known as being a nerve regenerator, right? So then another woman said to me, she said, I have a severed nerve from an abdominal surgery I had many years ago. And when I took the herb in, I felt it go right to where that severed nerve was. And I could feel like it almost felt like things were like pulsing back together. I was like, amazing. You need to take this. I was like, everyone that was coming to me that was like, I had this crazy experience. This was really helping. I'm like, take the plant. This is your herb. Like, like get some. There's some at the plant shop. Buy it, plant it, start using it, and that was just really cool to get that feedback, like right there from those students. So nerve damage, really take that seriously. Like, I think that's a really, really strong reason to grow and to use this plant. Some of the other ways that you can use it is for insomnia, sleeplessness, general fatigue, exhaustion, diseases of the tubes of the body. So I mentioned that this is in the mint family, so it has a square stem and it's also hollow. And these little fistulas, where it gets its name, so Monarda fistulosa, and so a fistula is like a open, like a tube. So it's really good for clearing the tubes of the body. So it's been used for Meniere's disease, which is ringing in the ears or issues with the ear canal. It's been used for throat, for nose problems and sinus issues, especially sinus, like chronic sinus infections, for issues of the lungs. Inflammation of the digestive tract can be really helped by using Monarda as a tincture or a tea. So think about the tubes of the body as also being a place where this herb can work. It's like, where does it not work? Um, oh, yes. For teas, for fevers and colds. And that's one of the ways that I use it a lot in my family is, I actually have gone through, my stash, I had like a gallon jar of dried Monarda from last season. And by the end of this winter, it was all gone. I had used it all up between my kids and giving it out to family and friends. It is one of my best favorite herbs for colds, flus, fevers, all of that. Just brew it as a tea, a few teaspoons in a cup of water, let it steep maybe 5-10 minutes. It tastes like oregano, and that's one of its other names is wild oregano. So it is going to have like that very kind of pungent, spiced kind of chicken soup kind of taste to it. So if you don't love that, or if you don't think your kids will drink it, it does pair well with cinnamon. It pairs well with honey. You can add to give it a little sweetness. If you don't have uncontrolled high blood pressure, you could add some licorice is a nice herb too. But that is a really nice, this is wonderful if you're trying to cleanse, detox, help the body build a heat response to kill off bacteria pathogens, to open the pores of the body, to help you sweat so that you can cool your fever. I mean, it's amazing. For coughs and colds, it's a mucolytic, so it thins the mucus so that you aren't up coughing all night or blowing your nose all day. All of those are good reasons to use this plant. Oh, and then some of the more kind of traditional uses that are like, I would say like more on the emotional realm is that this herb was used. Tismal talks about it being used to cleanse the home after a fight or a domestic dispute. So he said herb is very cleansing and very clearing. So, for example, let's just say, you got into a fight with your teenager or your husband or your dog. I don't know. Dogs can never do anything wrong in my book, but except for eat my shoes. That does make me upset. But let's just say there was some sort of like altercation where things got really heated in your home. Well, traditionally in the, I think it was the Lakota people, they would take this herb, fresh or dried, throw it in a pot of boiling water and just steam the house. And they believe that the steam would cleanse and clear the anger out of the space and kind of reset the energy of the home. And I love that. I feel like that's such a wonderful, there's so many ways we can use herbs that we kind of forget about. And I think house steaming is one that I did a lot during COVID just to kind of keep the air clean because these volatile oils in the plant will cleanse the air. But also just think about smudging. It's kind of like smudging through steam, is one way that you can use this plant. Another more traditional use is for corpse sickness, which I hadn't heard of before, but it makes a lot of sense. And if you think about 100 years ago, before refrigeration, people when people would die, their bodies would start to decompose pretty quickly and not smell great. And so if you went to a funeral, people would carry handkerchiefs with them to breathe into, for actually a few reasons. One was because of the smell, and the other reason was because of something called corpse sickness. And so people believed, and I think there's something true to this, that if you're smelling death, and especially if you're around a lot of death, like maybe multiple funerals, and that it can make your spirit get a little depressed and get a little heavy because it's a lot of grief too. So what they would do is they would take the dried Monarda leaves and have it in their pocket, and then they would pull it out and crush it and smell it at funerals, or if they do a house, like a wake. But they would carry this with them to protect them from corpse sickness, which is like a draining of your life force from being around too many dead bodies. So, I might not have as many modern places to use that one. And, we might have some people here that work, in places where there is like a lot of, I don't know, there could be situations where you might want to have that if you're around death or around grief a lot. It is also really good for, let's see. Oh, maybe I could tell you this. It's also really good for sleep and nightmares. And I use this with my girls. I'll take the dried leaves and the dried flowers, and I put it in like a little, those little clear mesh bags that a lot of jewelry shops will give you their jewelry in. And it's basically like this very clear mesh, like almost like not a net, but you know what it's like a screen almost. So I just put the dried herbs in there, kind of crush it up, and then they sleep with that under their pillow. And then it's supposed to get rid of any nightmares or bad dreams. And I think my girls, they really like that. They like that as a practice. I think rituals and just, knowing that there's something around to help. And then we'll compost and give those leaves back, put fresh leaves in if they start having nightmares again. But I think it really does calm them. And sometimes, they'll even be like, can I just hold it? And so they'll fall asleep holding the bee balm. And I think that's so nice and so sweet. Some of the other names that you might know this herb as, maybe you're listening to this, you're like, I've never heard of this, but people call it sweet leaf, Oswego tea, wild bergamot, and wild oregano. So those are some of the other names. And I did want to say one last thing, which is that there is a red version of this plant, and its Latin name is Monarda didyma. So it is basically bee balm, but with that bright red flower. And those two can be used interchangeably. They have the same volatile oils. However, David Winston, an herbalist that I really like to follow, he actually says that the red bee balm is spicier and more heating than the light purple. That the light purple is actually, it's not cooling. It still has those volatile oils, so it's going to be warming, but it's less provoking to heat in the body. So, if you have like cold, sluggish digestion, then the red might be a better fit than the light purple, right? So, and if you have both, again, I think if I grow both in my garden, and I just use them both together. I prefer this one because this is the more indigenous one that I learned about. And I love them both equally. And I use them, I'll use them both and I haven't noticed that big of a difference in terms of their oils or their strengths, but I trust David Winston because he is an expert in these matters. All right, everyone. Well, that brings us to our end for today. I would love to hear your thoughts if you've ever used this herb before, if you grow it or if it grows in your area. I know it can be grown throughout most of North America. It likes to grow kind of on like the edges and hedges. It often likes to grow near, in where we live, it really likes to partner and grow alongside asters and what's that other one that I love? Oh, goldenrod. Yeah. So this one will like kind of flower in the summer, and then it'll give way to the gold of the goldenrod in the late summer to early fall. So you can, also if you know where goldenrod is, maybe go out and look for this plant as well. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions about this herb. And as always, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. And I'll see you all again next time. Bye.